I'd like to welcome everybody this evening to our special council meeting for Monday, April 7th. We're going to discuss leasing tonight. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We do have regrets from Councillor Joe Guerin this evening. We acknowledge that this land is the traditional territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of the First Nation, comprised of the Ojibwe, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi peoples, and of the Huron-Wendat peoples. We value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations, of all the original people of Turtle Island who have been living and working on the land from time immemorial. Any declarations of conflicts of interest from members of council this evening? Seeing none, if you find yourself in conflict later, just let us know. I need a mover and a seconder of the adoption of the published agenda for the special council meeting for April 7th. Moved by Councillor Mady, supported by Councillor McGuire-Blaze. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried. Reports from administration. Tonight we'll go to our CAO, Doug Sweet, and Director Drusevich to walk us through a presentation regarding OPP services.
You can just call up the slides. Okay, so council, tonight we're meeting on the OPP and the policing. So have an agenda. Basically, we're going to look at what the purpose of the meeting is, a little bit of the background on why we got to where we are today, policing in Ontario, role of the OPP and the detachment board, billing model, recent review of Leamington, and our next steps. Next slide. So at the January 2025 Committee of Whole meeting, council had a high-level discussion on OPP policing, and from this council meeting, he requested that we have a special meeting to look at billing model, types of calls, and potential options. But I thought it was important to have a little bit of background. Next slide. So this was a motion back on March 19, 2007, when council of the day was looking at going from Essex Police Services to OPP. Kind of pull out a few things, basically that the town of Essex, being fiscally responsible and dedicated to serving the needs of all residents, form a steering committee to develop and report back to council of the town of Essex on a contract policing cost from the OPP. The mandate and scope will be to provide identical services, and that all police service staff will be offered jobs with the OPP or equivalent municipal employment dedicated to the support of the contracting police services. Talks about their steering committee and also their police service board. In addition, the chief of police and police service board are requested to cooperate in providing the current stats and information. So that was the direction at that time. Next slide. Administration, based on their diligence, a 2008 report listed following reasons on why council was looking at costing from the OPP. And this came out from our actual administration report to council. So I just want to read these. Over the past few years, costs provided municipal policing have risen significantly, placing undue burden on the taxpayers and taking tax dollars away from municipal services. The cost to provide adequate and effective policing as mandated by the Ontario provincial government costs more for small municipal services because there's no economy of scale that comes from shared specialty services. The Council of Town of Essex wants to make sure that fiscally responsible government and services are delivered at the best price possible. This will allow council to hold tax increases and free up dollars to improve the quality of life for all residents. If policing can be delivered for less money, the neighboring municipality is almost identical to Essex, pays $1 million less for adequate and effective policing delivery. Even larger municipalities pay less than Essex with the OPP. There should be no difference in service. Current staff will be employed with an OPP contract or be dealt with fairly should they not decide to transfer. This will be considered an amalgamation should it move forward to completion. That was council's key points on looking at going to the OPP. So basically, next slide. Basically, when they did the report in 2008, they did a comparison of 5 years, so 2009 to 2013. And you can look on the chart, it shows EPS, which is Essex Police Services, OPP, and net cost. So they projected out for those 5 years, the difference from OPP going with OPP as opposed to remaining with Essex Police. And it's average of about $1 million per year. And you can see at the bottom over a 5-year period, they projected by going to the OPP would save approximately $5 million to the town. Next slide. To take that a step farther, if you look at the top 2024 and 25, so we do know what our OPP contract actually are. We projected basically inflation what Essex Police Services could be. So if you look at 24, $2.7 million difference, and 25, 2.5. that's per year what could be a difference. Highlighted at the very bottom, this does not also include capital costs. So if you had your own police services, there would be additional costs, vehicles, et cetera, that we're paying to a part now, but there'd be additional costs that aren't included in these stats. Next slide, please. So just some information on policing requirements in the province. So in 2019, Ontario passed the Community Safety and Policing Act. Now, part of that act, it replaced the Police Service Act of 1990. As per the act, all municipalities or regions are required to have police services. If a municipality or region does not have its own municipal policing, then they will utilize OPP services. Next slide. So the OPP's mission is to serve the province by protecting its citizens, upholding the law, and preserving public safety. So as per the most recent act, the OPP are responsible, and you can see there, provide policing services to any rural communities that don't have their own municipal service, provide frontline police services, patrol roadways, patrol numerous provincial waterways, investigate major cases, and provide major case investigation support, provide air support for search and rescue, prisoner transport investigation, provide admin support, and provide specialized response service special units, drug force, canine, mental health, explosive disposal, etc. Part of the act also, when you're part of the OPP, you must also have be part of an OPP detachment board. The town of Essex is part of the OPP detachment board north, which includes the town of Essex, county of Tecumseh, and the municipality of Lakeshore. As per the requirements set out in legislation for the detachment board, each municipality is required to have one council member and one community at large member on the board. For us, that is Mayor Bondi, and we have Dave Kiger as our community rep. So what's different as per the Community and Policing Act, the Detachments Board scope is, and it is different than police, and there's some confusion, but Detachment Board is basically about policy. Determine objectives and priorities for the detachment that are not consistent with the OPP strategic plan. A local OPP detachment board may establish local policies after consulting with the detachment commander. Review reports of the detachment commander, which are part of the monthly meetings or quarterly meetings for us for our detachment board. Consult with the commissioner regarding the selection of a detachment commander and otherwise participate in accordance with the regulations in the selection of the detachment commander. Monitor the performance of that commander. And every year on or before June 30th, provide an annual report to the municipalities regarding the policing provided by the detachment in their municipalities. So that's quickly a lot of history, why they switched over, some of the scope work of the OPP and the detachment board. But now into the financial part, I'll turn it over to Director Drusevich, kind of go over the billing model.
Through the chair. So I know this may be a little hard to read, it's a bit smaller, but what we wanted to do today was walk through the billing model that we as a municipality are presented by the OPP. And so I'm going to just walk through this sort of line by line to make sure that council has a full understanding of what it means. So there is a cost per property. That is a crucial piece of information in this billing model. And basically what the OPP does is they take all of their costs for the base service, whether it be wages, whether it be administrative costs, facility costs that they may have for their general office duties. They take it into one bucket and they divide it across all property counts that have OPP as service. And so then they take the per property cost and they times it by the amount of properties we have in our jurisdiction. And so the billing could fluctuate depending on our population. As we see population added to our town, we would see our billing costs inherently increase. However, that's dependent on the rest of the property growth as well. So we'll get into that a little further on. So for 2025, this is an older snippet. I believe it was from 2023. The cost per property for the 25 period was estimated to be $189.44. And that was applied to 9,772 properties. So after they apply a cost for base service, they then apply a cost for calls of service. And this is basically just a touch more detailed. And what they're doing is they're taking the total calls for service and our proportion out of all calls received, right? So say we received in the town of Essex jurisdiction, 10% of the calls were us, we're going to have 10% of those costs applied to our billing statement. Overtime is done on a cost per property basis is similar to the base service. So it's just, they separate out overtime for overtime calls as well as overtime for training. and then they apply it to the per property amounts. Court security, very similar cost per property, such as the base service that I described above. For 2025, we did see the government step in after drastic increases were noted on the contract renewals, and they applied a 10% discount on the overall contract. So that was a direct savings of $354,000. And then each year they also do a sort of true up of any prior years. So budgets are budgets. They don't always come in as we predicted. And so what we will see is the total estimated cost, and then we'll see an adjustment for prior years. If they came in over or under budget, we would see that added to our billing statement as well. Next slide, please. So this is our historical cost per household for the town of Essex. So you can see there was a fairly drastic drop from 2020 to 2021. In 2020's contract, there appeared to be a service enhancement, a sergeant that ended up getting dropped off of the contract from the periods of 21 onwards. And so you're seeing a continual decline. And again, that has to do with our population. So because we experienced some fairly significant population growth, we saw an increase from 9320 in the year 2020 up to 9636 in 2024. That allowed us to have a lower cost. Okay, next slide, please. And so this is just showing our increase in population, which we believe helped with the total cost per household. Okay, and then I'll pass it back over to CAO Suite to go through some stats.
So one of the items council asked to come back were what's the stats. Due to the forming of the police or the detachment board, we would use 2023. So on there, the highest was property check, motor vehicle collisions, bylaw, community service, all the way down. So those are the main calls that we're having for the town of Essex in 2023. So based on those numbers, as per Director Drusevich, that would dictate that portion of the billing model. And I will turn it back to Director Drusevich now to go over a case if you were looking at options to move forward.
Yeah, next slide, please. So recently, Leamington went through this exact scenario. Should we procure outside? What should we do, really, right? Should we consider OPP? And so in 2020, we saw an RFP by Leamington issued, which saw two bidders, Chatham Kent Police Force and the Windsor Police Service. OPP did not submit a bid because the RFP terms that were issued did not align with the regulations that they need to follow. Windsor Police Service ended up being the preferred proponent of that RFP. Next slide, please. However, once they started digging into the financials of what that proposal looked like, there was some conclusions that were drawn, mainly that it would be a substantial increase in taxes to ratepayers or drastic service cuts. They'd have to find the funding elsewhere in the budget to fund the increase in police services. So what you can see is the OPP offered, the summaries there from 22 to 26, in and around the 6 million-ish mark up to 7.83, and the Windsor Police Service started at 9.4 million. So in the initial year in 2022, when they wanted to introduce the change in force, it would have been a 54% increase to the cost of policing in the town of Leamington. Next slide, please. So we looked at their process and how they went about investigating such change. And we saw that a consultant was required in order to draft the RFP. There was heavy consultation with the public to basically determine, is this the road they want to go down? Are they that unsatisfied with policing services? And so that was in and around a budget. This is inflated for 25 costs. So we would estimate it'd be around 50,000. They completed a level of service evaluation. They did that via community survey. And so what this timeline does is it lays out basically the steps that Leamington took. However, it gives it a timeline in the town of Essex's lens to show you a proposed timeline should we want to head this direction. So if we were to follow a similar path, basically October to December, we should be issuing a level of service evaluation to the community to make sure that they're unhappy and want to see a change. And then January to March, work on the RFP, closely with the consultant. And then April to August, we would close the RFP, and September to November, council evaluation and determination. And once we have that determination, we have to supply a 1-year notice to the OPP. I just want council to be cautious with these timelines, as we could be in a situation where we're in a lame duck situation, right? This 26 will be in an election year. And so that's something to be mindful of when making a change to something this drastic. Next slide, please. So these are just directly from the Leamington report. I've cited it there. You can see the report that was issued in July of 2020. It was from the consultant, and the consultant specializes in studies such as OPP versus in-house services. And so I'm not going to go over each of them, but there are pros. You can talk to our neighbors, LaSalle, and a lot of the residents are quite happy paying the price that they pay for the service they receive. You can see that they then have local municipal police powers is set out in the CSPA, so they fall under a different piece of legislation. They're all employees of the municipality, and they're dedicated solely to the town, right? So there most definitely are benefits to an in-house model. The cons is that it is expensive, and it's a time-extensive option, right? It would require significant capital expenditures. We would have to look at some significant procurement of items such as fleet, facilities, and officer equipment and so forth. And then it also requires significant staff details to design, organize, and recruit. Recruitment is one of the larger cons as well. Next slide, please. So just so we can see what's happening in our local environment, as we have seen some headlines lately. Amherstburg has been issued notice that City of Windsor Police will terminate their contract, and that will end in December of, cut off there, Shelley, is it 28? I believe it's 28, yeah. And Leamington chose OPP, and the remaining are with OPP except for LaSalle, who has their own in-house task force. Next slide, please. So the cost per household, you can see that Essex, we're sort of in the mid to lower range of what it's costing our OPP residents, what it's costing our residents for OPP services right now. So again, to reiterate, Leamington went through is MPM Consulting that ended up assisting with the process. Next slide. And I'll pass it over to CEO Sweet now, and we'll talk about what happens at County Council.
Thank you, Director Drusevich, through you, Mayor Bondi. So the first part they just went through, Council, was under your direction prior to what just recently occurred at County about a month ago. So on March 5th at Council, they had a County Council, the administration of the County of Essex, worked with local municipalities to explore options for traditional regional policing models for the County of Essex to be in place for January 1st, 2029, and for administration report back as soon as possible. So from that, County worked, and basically there was 2 options that were presented to County Council on April 2nd. First option 1, have administration work with local municipalities, explore options for traditional regional policing, or option 2, administration work with municipalities on a collaborative approach to policing in the long term with the OPP managed by one central command. For option 2, there was a disclaimer: any municipality can opt out if they're their own policing, such as LaSalle. Any cost for their service will then be shared equally among the remaining participants. So then following that April 22nd meeting, neither of these 2 options presented by the town of Amherstburg were supported by County Council. A notice of motion was raised by Mayor Bondi to have County administration provide a report on consulting costs if either of these 2 options were supported by County Council. So at this point, County's not moving forward either way. But we thought that was important that Council realizes that, because that was in the media, kind of those were going in front of County Council. If you have further questions on that, obviously we have our Mayor and Deputy Mayor, they're there. So what we're looking for now, any questions, but also if there's any further Council direction based on the OPP discussion that you've had in the past and tonight.
Director Drusevich, I have Deputy Mayor Shepley first, then Councillor Hammond.
So we did have the discussion at County Council, and there was not a lot of appetite for regional policing. And we got a firsthand account from the warden on what Leamington went through. So it wasn't something that I think we would really be looking forward to doing it on our own, but I don't think that was ever the intent here to look at starting our own police force again. However, in lieu of what just happened in Amherstburg, we see the reality of going with another police department, that can change just as much as we saw an increase with the OPP. What I noticed in the presentation was the projected cost was actually $100,000 more than we're paying now. So we're actually doing fairly well. I like what we have now. I think there's options to work with what we have currently, where we, again, I said this at county council, what I would like to see us do is maybe not lower our cost per service, but have one police department with one jail cell serving the three that we're involved with, which is Tecumseh and Lakeshore, and then maybe bring more officers on the street for us to have a little better visibility. I'm not at this point going to support any motion where we're going to start our own or even waste the $50,000 to go out for pricing on something that I don't think is not going to serve us any good at this point in time. So that's where I'm at on this. So I'm going to leave it to the rest of you guys to discuss.
Counselor Hammond.
Through you, Mayor. I just wondered if we could go back to the original proposal and projections that were cast towards the council of the day, and how close were those projections over the course of the 5 years? Just can anybody have an idea? Yeah.
We'll speak to it.
Through the chair. So we don't have this inflated to 2024 numbers. You can see we've done it up until 2013. And in 2013, we predicted that it was going to cost the town 3.4 million. And the 2025 billing statement came in at 3.2 million. So we are actually currently paying significantly less than what was proposed in 2013, as that's not an inflated number.
Thank you, through the chair. I appreciate the report. Thank you. Unfortunately, this does not satisfy me because it is not what I had asked for. What I was looking for was, what are we getting for $3 million? How many police officers? How many hours? Like, what does that look like? We are paying $3 to $4 million for a service that we have no idea what we actually get for it. So we can, what I'm hearing from our residents is that they don't see the police. And I do have to say, over the last month or two, the police presence has increased. But the reason for asking for this was because residents aren't seeing the police. Their homes are being broken into. There's petty theft everywhere. There's big theft in our retail stores. So what are we paying for? And I do know that it's difficult for the police service board to answer this, which we've asked because it's operational. I understand that it's operational. I'm not asking for their hours. I'm not asking when is shift change. What I'm asking for is, what do we get? So do we get one officer on the road 24 hours a day? Do we get 2 officers on the road 24 hours a day? We're looking at $361 an hour is what we're paying. What do we get for $361 an hour? If I was a business person and I owned a business and somebody said, I'm going to come and I'm going to fix up your building, you're going to pay me $361 an hour, I'd say, what are you going to do? I can't tell you. When you see it, you'll see it, but I can't tell you. So that's what I was asking for. So I appreciate this. It's a start to where I want it to go. I do agree that looking at this, it's probably not beneficial for us to pay the $50,000 to go somewhere else, but it would be nice to say to our residents, this is what we're paying for. And if you wanted more, this is the option to get more. The option is another $1.5 million. So if you want more service, it's going to cost us $1.5 million. We can't say that because we don't know what we're getting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor McGuire Blaze. And that one slide, it did show what their scope of work is. So that is what services we are getting from the OPP. And I know when you're on the police service board, your frustration, other people's frustration. And I'm just going to read from our superintendent, basically, what do we get, right? Can you disclose how many people exactly to your questions? I can advise that we maintain sufficient resources to provide full police service delivery within the county of Essex, right? That's what they always tell us. Efficient and adequate policing. That's the answer. They won't tell us, and it's for safety reasons that we've explained, right? So if people know how many officers, vehicles, and all that, it is a safety issue. But I can respond back. The service we are getting is what was listed in the OPP in that scope. Through our monthly meetings outside of the detachment board, we meet with our staff sergeant. We've met with Superintendent Lucas. We've again break-in stats. We're looking at some of our trouble areas and some of our apartment buildings. How can we address those to reduce our police calls? So just recently, there's a grant going around other municipalities using OPP that we're maybe looking how we can help with traffic enforcement. So there are things that they are aware of. They're hearing the community they want to do. As I've talked to other people, even in the community, and I hear the same thing. There's no police presence. And I've asked, what does that mean to you? Do you expect to see a police car every half hour going down your road? And they're like, no, but I just want to see them more. Like, I'm not even getting an answer. So I'm not sure if council gets an answer from that. That seems a concern. I'm not sure what that definition of police presence means.
Follow up?
Chair. I think for our residents, they're missing the small town policing. They knew their police officers. We don't see the same police officer over and over in our town. You don't have a police officer walking up the streets. You don't have a police officer going through the parks. We had a year or two ago, there was a problem with vandalism. So for a summer, we saw some police presence. We have a bike. We have paid for police on bicycles. I have yet to see that happen. We have paid for police on ATVs. I have yet to hear that a police officer went on an ATV and got the people going through our farmers' fields. Like, those are the things that people are looking for. We know that we're paying for certain things and we're not seeing it. There's not even reports on where the bicycles were. I know that one of the number one calls for service is property checks. No one asked them to do the property check. Those property checks are done on their own time. They think that that is a good use of their time. I would like them to listen to the town and see what we think is a good use of their time. Maybe to the residents, checking the Colchester beaches, the vacant homes in the winter months isn't a good use. Maybe that would be better suited to take a walk through No Frills, to take a walk through Foodland, and just take a walk through the town so people can see that there's police here. I think in what I would like to do, and I tried to request a notice of motion, is I would like to see our OPP conduct more community service things. So have an open house meeting at the arena and just be there to answer questions. Just be there to talk to people. They could be standing in the foyer for an hour and a half during a hockey tournament. And that would be one thing. Like, be present where the people are. Don't be sitting in your cars on the Arner Town line waiting for the call to come in. That's not a good use of your time. Be where the people are and let them know that you're here and engage. I think that's what the residents are asking for. Engage with them, let them talk to you, let them tell you, let our residents talk to the police and say, listen, I live on this street and 3 times I've had this kid come in my backyard and take my bike. That's it. That's all they want. It's so simple, but no one's listening. It's been 6 years.
Thank you. Councillor Mady?
You, Chair. Maybe the deputy mayor or mayor can give a little bit of insight onto, you said that at county there wasn't much of an appetite for regional policing. And I'm just kind of curious why, as regional policing isn't something that I'm familiar hearing as an option quite a bit. I know municipalities looked at maybe trying to start up their own force again, or to look at having another force come in, but never as a region. Some of the things as a region that we could do, as some of the examples you gave, just go down to one jail or just have one hosting community. So I'm curious why county would not even want to look into that.
Answer a part of this, and then if I miss any gaps. So one thing that we did do earlier is we did an OPP satisfaction survey but we do it online, and the town of Tecumseh does their town satisfaction surveys through Nanos. So it's not just people that are not happy, it's random calls, and they have a 95% satisfaction with the OPP. And this is what Gary McNamara said. So in Tecumseh, they've had the OPP for a long time. And it's one of those things, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Same with Lakeshore. They have a very high satisfaction. So that's Tecumseh and Lakeshore. LaSalle is not going to budge from their police. They're very happy. Their resident, they pay a lot. They pay like double what we pay, but they're very happy. So if you're going to, look at regional policing, you need quite a few municipalities to be unhappy. And I don't think there's enough municipalities that are unhappy right now. And that's what I'll say about that. Do you have anything to add, Deputy Mayor?
The other thing would be the discrepancies in levels of service that we would all require if we were going to go do regional. How would we suss that out between each municipality? So I think there's a lot of unknowns and a huge outlay initially that the county would have to do in order to buy all the equipment and get it to get set up in the forefront of it all.
Follow up on that information. Thank you for that. I would say that maybe there's another problem we got to look for then, because if we're paying the exact same amount or very close to the same amount as Tecumseh, and our survey came back far less than 95% satisfied, maybe we should do a different poll a different way, or find out why our level is not as good as theirs.
Completely agree. It's on our radar, like my radar, to try to talk to council and administration about a different type of survey, because the type of survey that we're doing seems to be soliciting extremes on one end where it's not random. So the other thing that I do want to say is a couple years ago, the OPP were running at a 60% complement of officers. They were having a hard time hiring officers, as with any job right now, EMS, everything else, fire, everybody's got COVID burnout and still. So now they've told us that they're running at an 80% complement. That's why we're seeing more officers on the ground. And I do believe that they're doing a better job. They're out there a lot more. I have seen them on their bike. I've taken a picture, but it's not as much as we want to see. I do want to say that they're coming to our flag raisings as well. CAO Sweet and I meet with our contract or staff sergeant monthly, and we're taking all the feedback that we hear from council and hear from the community. But we need you it's a two-way relationship. We need council members, we need the community to use that OPP email on our website. We need the community to also call the OPP non-emergency number. Like when we call, Doug and I'm very data-driven. I've got stats for all of the apartments in Essex Ward 1 and in Harrow, because I'm trying to hone in where the issues are. We asked, on social media, people will say there's break-ins, and then CEO Sweet and I asked the OPP, and they have like 2 or 3 reported break-ins. So if people are having issues in their neighborhood, they have to report it as well. There's also, I would hope all of you could take a look at the county council meeting that is live streamed. You can watch it. You could see what the conversations are for yourself. If you want more information. And the other thing is the OPP, our North Board, is also live streamed as well. Like it's all open. It's all public information. You could see the questions we're asking. You can see the work we're doing. We're talking about getting residents' cameras uploaded for live stream. We're talking about vulnerable people. All the things that you say in council don't just go out the door. We take them and we run with them. And maybe we need to do a better job reporting back, but also it's out there for you to look up and research as well. Councilor Verbeek?
I guess I really don't have anything new to add, except that I echo Councillor McGuire-Blaze's frustration. I sat at that table too for a number of years. I received the same answer to operational. You can't know, to all of those questions. I saw how much every month we would ask, we want more foot patrols. We want more foot patrols. We want more foot patrols. We have the bikes. Can we get the bikes out? And I'm just going to ask you and the CAO to keep pushing, to keep asking for those things. We are seeing them at our hockey games a little more, and I am seeing an improvement in their visibility. But absolutely, that's what we need to see them on the ground with the people, not sitting in their cruisers or, I mean, it is nice. We are seeing a little more presence of them driving around. But I guess you'll just have to keep pushing for us to get them on the ground a little more and with the community.
Follow-up action items from this, we could send a letter to the OPP Police Service Board saying, we are seeing an improvement, but we would like more improvement in here, here, and here. If somebody wants to send something. Councilor McGuire Blaze?
Thank you through the chair. I would like to send that letter to the OPP. I do want to recognize that we have seen more police presence driving through town, but I really would like to see more police presence in our community activities. So I would ask that we send a letter requesting that, please, and thank you for the suggestion.
Okay, that's moved by Councillor McGuire Blaze that we send a letter to the North Board, supported by Councillor Verbeek, that we recognize the efforts, but we'd like to see more community engagement and bikes and ATVs, foot patrols. We can send the draft letter to you to review. Okay, all in favor of that? That is carried unanimously. I don't have my gavel. Deputy Mayor? Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd like to put a motion forward that council direct administration to work with the OPP to evaluate the facility needs within the town of Essex, with a focus on synergies and improved service delivery to our local residents. That means reviewing if our Harrow Police Station is in the right spot. That means reviewing if we need to do something better in Ward 1. Like right now, they can't sign in and sign out. So I want to make sure that the buildings that they are in align with services. I can discuss more if we get a seconder. Thank you, through you, Chair. I think one of the things that happened a couple years ago, and I think it was in 2022, is the office at the Mado building, or used to be a location where our OPP officers could sign in and sign out. But because of legislation and security concerns, they can no longer start their shift there and they can no longer end their shift there. So that means there's actually travel time from Ward 1 to Ward 4 between shifts. I think we could potentially review that and maybe find a different building for them in Ward 1, and maybe even look at a different building long-term. I want to look at a long-term vision in a different building for them in Ward 4. And that could be a big discussion. That could be Essex Center has, the big building for Essex County, and then there's hubs in all the other areas. I just want to start like a conversation on facilities. And then if we ever do move to regional police, those buildings could still be regional policing buildings.
All the question, all in favor? Opposed? That carries. Turn it back over to you, Mayor Bondi.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? If not, looking for a mover and a seconder, that the presentation by CEO Sweet and Director Drusevich regarding OPP services be received. Councillor Hammond, Councillor McGuire Blaze, all in favor? Opposed? And that's carried unanimously. Looking for a motion to adjourn. Deputy Mayor Shepley, Councillor Hammond, any questions? And that's all in favor. That's carried. Okay, we have